The strategy genre has been one of the biggest and most popular in the gaming industry since the beginning of PC gaming practically. Strategy games can be classified into subgroups like turn-based, real-time, grand strategy, tactical RPGs, and more. Some games provide cities to build, and others provide planets to conquer. What they all have in common though is that they require some level of obvious strategy in order to beat. The 1990s saw a major boom with games like Age of Empires, but since then there have been tons of strategy games for players all over the world and of all preferences. There's a game for everyone, let's just put it at that. In 2023, you're probably wondering what strategy games you should be taking up, or maybe you're new to the genre and want to try out something different for once. Whatever your reasons for being here are the top 10 best strategy games you can play right now in 2023. But before we really dive into the video, be sure to subscribe with notifications set to all so you never miss out on another upload. And one final note, this list isn't in any particular order since they're all equally great games, so feel free to try whichever one piques your interest the most. At number 1, we've got Age of Empires. The Age of Empires series spans across 4 titles currently, with my personal favorite being Age of Empires 2, but you can play whichever one has the civilizations that fits your fancy. Each Age of Empires title features tons of civilizations for you to play as, such as Ancient Rome and Ancient Egypt. The main objective is to build up your empire and attack others so that you can win the game. The main strategy lies in being able to build both a good offense and a good defense. Age of Empires allows you to play during different time periods within each empire's reign. For instance, you can start all the way from square one with sticks and stones and progress from there, or you can start from the end and have all the resources unlocked for you. Aside from a campaign, there's also a multiplayer component where you can play with friends against other players, against AI, or against each other. It's honestly a super fun game, and I think it's one of the best strategy games to get started with for sure. Age of Empires is also available on Xbox Game Pass and is now playable on Xbox consoles, not just PC. So this is a great strategy game if you don't own a PC as well. At number 2 is the Total War Warhammer trilogy. Total War is definitely not just one of the best strategy games, but also one of the most famous and well-known strategy games out there. The Warhammer trilogy has been one of the most popular out of the Warhammer collection, with Warhammer 2 and Warhammer 3 being the most widely praised. Total War Warhammer is a turn-based empire-building strategy game that features tons of different fantasy creatures, heroes, and more. For example, Warhammer 2 features dark elves, lizardmen, and other similar groups. The objective of Warhammer is to manage cities within an empire, build up an army, and defend your empire against other hostile empires. Warhammer features real-time tactical battles between different armies. Total War has been a major staple of the strategy world, and its Warhammer trilogy is some of the best strategy has ever seen. At number 3 is Crusader Kings 3, which is a grand strategy RPG set in the Middle Ages. Crusader Kings 3 allows players to simulate building a dynasty beginning in the Middle Ages, with a large expanse of land available to play on from Europe to Africa and Asia. You build up your empire and continue it through your heirs, expanding and developing your dynasty. The game ends in 1453, which technically marks the end of the Middle Ages. Rather than having 2D portraits like in previous Crusader Kings games, players get full-body 3D rendered character models. Traits affect stats and behavior, and going against typical behavior can create stress. With the genetics system, descendants will be able to have similar traits. Players get to choose between feudal, tribal, or clan government types, and religion and culture are both equally important to the game. Players can engage in pilgrimages, holy wars, and much more. Crusader Kings 3 places a pretty heavy emphasis on the religious aspect of your empire. Crusader Kings 3 has been highly regarded and is critically acclaimed as one of the best. It was also nominated at the Game Awards 2020 as one of the best simulation/strategy games, but it ultimately lost to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Crusader Kings 3 is also available on PC, Xbox Series X/S, and PlayStation 5. At number 4 is Anno 1800, which is a city-building real-time strategy game. The 7th game in the Anno series, Anno 1800 takes place in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution and includes new features that previous Anno titles didn't include. Set in the colonial trade, Anno 1800 features Victorian architecture and factory labor for the main economic driving power. The core gameplay takes place in the Old World, where players must control and build up cities. A new world also exists and produces products that laborers in the Old World want to purchase, which makes a need for a trade system. There's also a story, campaign, sandbox, and multiplayer mode. Anno 1800 features randomly generated maps and trade routes, AI opponents, and naval warfare. Players can plan out their city with blueprints, which helps to save money throughout the course of the game. Anno 1800 is the fastest selling Anno game ever, selling 4 times more than Anno 2205 during its first week of release. It's been regarded as a great game and was nominated for many awards. It's also available on PC, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. At number 5 is XCOM 2, which is a turn-based tactics video game. It's also the sequel to XCOM Enemy Unknown and takes place 20 years after the events of Enemy Unknown. XCOM 2 features turn-based gameplay from a top-down perspective. Players must issue commands to a squad of soldiers to eliminate aliens in a map and also sometimes complete secondary objectives. XCOM 2 features procedurally generated maps to create a wide variety of levels, which makes the gameplay much more diverse and engaging. Players can go through the campaign, and then players can start a mode called Iron Man, which overwrites the save file after actions are performed, upping the stakes. XCOM 2 also has a one-on-one multiplayer mode, and players can create campaigns, cosmetics, and enemy types and share them through the Steam Workshop. In XCOM 2, players take control of a ship known as the Avenger, which serves as the mobile base for XCOM. XCOM 2 is a highly regarded strategy game and is considered one of the best ever made. It's playable on PC for both Windows and Linux, Mac OS X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android, so it's accessible to a wide variety of players. At number 6 is Sid Meier's Civilization 6, which is a turn-based strategy video game in which players compete alongside AI opponents, with the goal to build up their individual civilization from a small tribe to a major empire, with controlling the entire planet being the end goal. Players can develop technology, culture, and governmental structures of their chosen empire. The world is randomly generated, allowing players to explore and encounter other civilizations. Players can trade and maintain diplomatic relationships or go to war and take over other civilizations. Players can choose to play as leaders from a wide variety of cultures and backgrounds, making it a great strategy game with plenty to do. Each civilization has something unique about it, changing up the gameplay each time. Civilization 6 is definitely one of the best strategy games to start with and is certainly a super popular title that anyone should try. It's available on Windows, Mac OS, Linux, PS4, Xbox One, iOS, Android, and Nintendo Switch. Just to add a quick note, any game available through PS4 and Xbox One is likely available on the PlayStation 5 and Series consoles through backwards compatibility. At number 7 is Stellaris, a real-time grand strategy game set in one of several available galaxy types in the distant future. Players get to play as a government of a species in its early stages of interstellar space exploration after the invention of travel that is faster than light. The ultimate goal of the Empire depends on player decisions, but it can be anything from establishing diplomatic relationships to absolute destruction, making it a varied and interesting experience each time. Players can either pick to customize their own empire/species or pick a pre-made option. Decisions made in the customization process do impact what players can do with their empire and can help to craft the end goal. Player empires begin with a planet, several mining and/or research stations, construction ship, science ship, 3 warships, and a starbase. Early gameplay mostly consists of exploring and mining, and eventually begins to involve warfare, diplomacy, and more. Stellaris sold 200,000 copies in less than 24 hours after it released, making it Paradox Interactive's fastest-selling game back in 2016. On May 2020, the game had sold over 3 million copies total. Stellaris is available on Linux, Mac OS, Windows, PlayStation, and Xbox. At number 8 is Europa Universalis 4. This grand strategy video game follows a historical timeline with an interactive map of Earth at the center of the gameplay. The map is divided into provinces that compose nations. Each province contributes to their respective country positively or negatively. Players will need to be able to strike a balance between militarism, diplomacy, and the economy in order to succeed. Your objective can be different depending on what you want, and your decisions help influence your end result. You can either play to dominate the world through militarism, colonialism, economic trade dominance, or more as one of over 500 different nations. Europa Universalis 4 is a sandbox game, which means you have free range, and there's no one particular way to win the game. However, it's game over if your nation is removed or annexed from the map, or if the date reaches 1821. Europa Universalis 4 is one of the best strategy games and has been praised by critics, with over 2 million registered players as of February 2021. It's definitely a game worth playing, especially if you're a big fan of history. At number 9 is Offworld Trading Company, which is a sci-fi timed real-time strategy game set on Mars. If you haven't guessed from the name yet, the gameplay features warfare on an economic scale, from hostile takeovers to corporate sabotage. You're in charge of one of 4 off-world trading companies, and you must extract resources like water, aluminum, iron, silicon, and carbon. You generate power, use steel mills, and more in order to process your resources. Seeing as this is a game based on economic dominance, supply and demand changes as it does in the real world, and you must account for this. However, in order to win the game, you must dominate economically, and you can buy some more lethal methods to beat the competition like nukes from the black market. The end goal is to buy a majority stake in every off-world trading company in the game. If a player loses the majority in their own company or is subjected to an expensive hostile takeover, they are eliminated. Offworld Trading Company is not as widely accessible as some of the other titles on this list, as it's only playable through Steam on Windows and Mac OS, but it's still a pretty neat game if you enjoy the idea of economic power. And finally, at number 10 is Company of Heroes 3, which is a real-time strategy game where players must take the role of the Allied forces during the invasion of Italy and the Axis powers in the North African campaign of the war. Company of Heroes 3 improved upon some mechanics from previous iterations, such as an improved destruction system, a tactical pause system which allows players to pause a battle, queue up commands to be done when the game is resumed, and more. Company of Heroes 3 also includes a more dynamic story, which can be affected by player interactions with the game. Company of Heroes 3 is playable on Windows PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series consoles. Overall, it received great reviews and is a neat game for people who enjoy a more military-specific strategy game, as it mainly focuses on warfare more than some of the other titles on this list. And that sums up our top 10 best strategy games. Let us know in the comments below which one's your favorite, or if you have any other strategy games that you really want people to know about. And with that being said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications set to all so you never miss out on another upload. Check out our newspaper for gaming news, entertainment, and more. The links to our website and all of our other socials are in the description below.